when the you-know-what hits the fan and you're all alone. Do you know what you'll be eating? Apocalypse-proof meal kits to get you through any emergency or crisis. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome to the channel. I love helping people take the shelf-stable foods they store in their prepper pantry and turn them into delicious, comforting, complete meals. One way I like to do that is with meals in a bag, otherwise known as emergency meal kits. Grab one bag off the shelf and you have everything you need to fix a complete meal, right down to and including any water needed to complete the meal. These are not only great for emergencies, but also come in handy for quick meals on busy nights, donations to blessing boxes, or just a gift for anyone who could use a meal. Usually my meals in a bag are family-sized meals, but we hear from a lot of folks who are prepping for just one or two people, whether they're single people or they're widowed, or they're prepping for a loved one who lives alone, like an aging parent or a neighbor, or maybe a young adult child just starting out. Many people are looking for smaller, single-serve meals that they can have on the shelf as a backup when they need it. So today I'm sharing a few new meals that I came up with. Let me know down in the comments if you or someone you know could use single-serve survival meals like these. And let's jump right in and get started. The following recipes are for quick, easy meals utilizing shelf-stable ingredients. They're not necessarily the most nutritious options, but they are, however, affordable and, in my opinion, quite tasty. In times of survival or struggle, they'll be very much appreciated. The first meal today is going to be a home-style mashed potato and chicken bowl, so kind of like something you would get at KFC. So I've got my single-serve cup of mashed potatoes here, and then I've got this little can of gravy and chunk chicken. Now, I got this at Dollar Tree. My Dollar Tree seems to have stacks and stacks of this all the time. But just in case, if you've ever seen a product like this at a different store, it's gravy in there with the chicken, not just the juice of the chicken. So if you've ever seen this at another store, a product like this, let us know down in the comments, just in case there's anyone who can't find this at their Dollar Tree or who doesn't have a Dollar Tree near them. And if you can't find a product like this, you could just use a regular small can of chicken like this, and you could put a little container or a little baggie with a tiny amount of chicken gravy mix that you could mix in with the juices right inside the can and make some gravy. And you could also use a little bit of extra water if you needed. And then I've got a little single serve cup of corn as well. I also have a bottle of water right here. We do need a little bit of water to prepare this meal, but not very much. So there will be water left over from this. You could even use a larger 16.9 ounce bottle of water. This is just an 8-ounce bottle. It's never going to hurt in an emergency to have extra water because you'll have something to drink with your meal. So let's pack up this meal. I've got my mashed potato cup. I've got my can of chicken and gravy, and I've got my cup of corn. And I'm also going to include a bottle of water because we do need a little bit of water to prepare this meal, and we want to make sure we have everything we need. And now this bag is ready to go on the shelf. But I'm actually going to fix this up so I can show you what this meal looks like when it's done. I think for most of these meals, for one, it's going to be good to have a very small saucepan. This is like the smallest size that comes with any pots and pan set. I'm not sure how big it is, but I don't even know if it would be a quart, maybe a quart. Probably if you do cook for one person, you probably have small pots and pans like this anyways. If you have a backpacking set, like a camp pot or like a jet bowl type of thing, any kind of backpacking stove with a little pot, that would be perfect as well. I'm going to be using my butane emergency stove for this meal. This is my go-to for emergency cooking when the power's out. I'm going to start by fixing up the mashed potatoes. Now they have a line inside that will show you where you can put the water to, but it actually tells you on the cup, it says 2/3 of a cup. So I am going to measure the water just because I do not want to be heating extra water. I don't want to waste fuel. I don't want to waste any of our water. And this is typically made to dump cold water in and microwave it, but we're going to make this with a stove because in an emergency you might not have a microwave. However, if you did have a microwave, this entire meal could be made in the microwave. So it could be great for people who are staying in a hotel room or living in a hotel or something like that and don't have access to a stove. One thing I am going to do for this meal is I am going to drain off the water that's in this corn because we don't want it in the corn. We also don't want to waste it because in an emergency, water is a precious resource. So any water you have, you should try to use or drink if you can. So if I can include it in the recipe, I do. If you don't think you'd like the flavor of this or something, you don't have to. But also a lot of the nutrition from this type of vegetable is going to be in the liquid. So it's another good reason not to waste it. So that gave me about 1/3 of a cup. So it gave me about half of the liquid that I need. I'm just going to top it off with the water. I'm just going to put the water in my pan and bring this to a quick boil. Always use a lid when you're cooking in emergencies just to conserve some extra heat and waste less fuel. And it also won't let your water evaporate. All right, that did not even take a minute. That water is pretty much boiling. I'm going to go ahead and dump it into the potatoes. Woo! And I've got a spoon here. I'm just going to give it a stir. All right, so that's all it really took, and those potatoes are pretty much done, just stirring in that boiling water. Now you could prepare the rest of the meal inside this cup just to not even have any extra dirty dishes during an emergency. I am going to put this out into a bowl just so that we can see the dish a little bit more when it's prepared. The rest of this is going to come together really quickly, so I'm not really worried about this getting cold while we are just heating up the rest of the meal. But you could put a piece of foil over this to keep the heat in a little bit, or you could just kind of do that, something to contain the heat. Now, I don't think that this corn would even really need to be heated. It would probably warm up just from the heat of the potatoes and chicken. But I will dump it into the pan and just give it a little bit of a heating, just for a second or two, just to make sure that our dish is all hot. I can already hear this sizzling, so that is more than enough time. I'm going to go ahead and dump the corn right onto the potatoes. Flatten that out a little bit if you want. And then the final step is going to be our gravy and chicken. This does have a pop top, so there's nothing in here that we need to worry about having a can opener for, but do be mindful with meals in a bag in general that if you need a can opener, you either want to make sure you have one with your emergency cooking gear or make sure that you throw a military can opener in the bag. This is super tasty, and it does kind of taste like KFC, believe it or not. I'm going to go ahead and get the heat on this. Get all that good gravy out of there. It's already starting to heat up and sizzle. You can see all the peppery chunks in there. This is actually really, really tasty. And look, it didn't take but a few seconds to heat up. Now this is all ready. Let's go ahead and put our chicken and gravy over top of our mashed potatoes and corn. And this is ready to eat, and it looks and smells amazing. Now, part of the beauty of this dish is the way that I layered this with the potatoes on the bottom and then the corn and then the chicken. We got a bowl, but if you wanted to do this differently, you could throw the chicken on the bottom and then the corn and then the mashed potato on top and have a chicken shepherd's pie. That's another dish that I used to make a lot when my kids were growing up and they loved it. So really, any way you put these ingredients together, they're going to taste delicious and comforting. All right, I am ready to dig in. Now, this is a pretty hearty bowl of food right here. This is so, so good. That chicken and gravy is a really, really good Dollar Tree product. I am so surprised by this. This is delicious. This is truly comfort food. The next meal is going to be a barbecue pulled pork mac and cheese with some green beans on the side. So I've got my single serve cup of macaroni and cheese here. This is the microwave type, but we're going to cook it in a pan. And this is the deluxe kind that has the already mixed up sauce, like liquid sauce pouch. You could also use something like this, for example, which is already prepared and you wouldn't even need any water. You just need to heat this up. And they actually make something like this that's bigger. It's about twice the serving. It's called a big bowl. That was actually what I was going to use today. I had some on hand, but I found out my kids had eaten them. So I don't have any of those. So I'm going to do this, but depending on how you want to have to prepare this and what serving size you want, there's many different options for the mac and cheese. Then I've got a little single serve pouch of the pulled pork with barbecue sauce from Walmart. And I just have a little cup of green beans here for a side dish. So you could do whatever side dish you wanted, whatever side vegetable or even a fruit that you wanted to have with this dish. And then of course I have my bottle of water, which is going to be for cooking the macaroni and cheese. And I'll also use some of the green bean water. If you didn't have this type of macaroni, you could actually leave the water out, but it's always good to have something to drink with your meal as well. And we should have some leftover water from this, or you could use a larger bottle as well. All right, let's get this put in the bag. I'm going to put in my water first, and then my green beans. I'm going to add my pouch of pulled pork. and my cup of macaroni and cheese. And this meal is ready to go on the shelf, but I'm going to fix it up and show you how it turns out. I'm going to start by cooking up the macaroni. And just like with the mashed potatoes, I'm going to use some of the water. I'm going to use all of the water from these green beans as part of the water to cook the macaroni. Now, they don't give us an exact measurement of how much water to add for the macaroni, because typically we would add it to the line inside the cup and put it in the microwave, but we're going to be cooking this in a pan. I'm going to open this up and take out this cheese sauce packet. Now, I'd like to do this as a one-pot pasta meal. You can see that there's not room for a whole lot of liquid in the cup because there's not very much pasta. So I'm going to see, this might actually be all the liquid that we need. Now, we need a little tiny bit more. So I am just going to fill this up to there. So that's probably about a half a cup of liquid total, including what I had with the green bean liquid. I'm going to go ahead and dump that into the pot. I'm going to try to get this all pretty well submerged under the liquid and get the pieces of pasta kind of separated. And I'm going to put this back on the heat and get the lid right on it so we don't lose any of that liquid to evaporation right off. It's not going to take very long to cook this macaroni. Now, once this starts to simmer, I am going to turn it down a little bit, and we're just going to cook this until the liquid's absorbed and the pasta's tender. All right, so it's been about 4 minutes. You can see that most of the liquid is absorbed, and I did test a pasta and it's pretty tender. I'm just going to let this set for about 30 more seconds. All right, so this pasta is tender. I'm going to go ahead and open up this cheese sauce pouch and just squeeze the cheese in. That is one benefit of this type of macaroni and cheese packs, is that they don't need milk and butter. They have all the liquid and everything they need, so you don't need additional ingredients. The downside to them is that these little liquid cheese pouches aren't going to last as long as a powdered cheese pouch. So once again, if you're using this type of ingredient in this meal, you're going to want to make sure that you are rotating these out every year or so. I like to think about going through our packs and our foods and our things about every 6 months if I can. Stir this cheese sauce right in. Here's our cheesy macaroni. We're going to use our fine china. I'm going to get this macaroni out onto this plate. I do like having a little spatula for something like this so that I can get as much of the food out as I can, because I'm just going to use the same pot and I'm not even going to bother washing it. Because in an emergency, we would not want to be using extra water, extra fuel, extra time to be washing a lot of dishes. Now, if you were doing this in a hotel or something like that, and you did have electricity and you had a microwave, you could microwave the macaroni right in the cup like it's intended. And then I think you could probably just put this pouch, if it was at room temperature, right on top of it inside the cup that you microwaved it in, and either just microwave it a few more seconds, or it might have enough heat to just warm this through just from the macaroni. But I am going to put this pulled pork into the pot. Once again, I'm not going to worry about any little bit of cheese sauce that's left in the pot. But if that bothers you, then by all means, you can wash this out in between or use a different pot or whatever you'd like. You could put a little water in the pot and heat it, put the pouch in the water, heat the pork that way, and then wash the pan with the hot water. All right, so I'm just going to put this back on the heat for a minute or two until this is heated through. And that's starting to sizzle. I'm going to take that off the heat and put this right on top of our macaroni and cheese, our pulled pork on top of our mac and cheese. So again, get as much of this out as I can. And I'm just going to pop the green beans in for a few seconds just to heat these through. And just like with the other foods, I'm not going to worry about that little bit of residual barbecue sauce in there. It can just flavor our green beans. But if it bothers you, by all means, wash it out. Even just a wipe with a paper towel would be sufficient. All right, those are hot. And I'm just going to go ahead and serve that right alongside. And this dish is ready, our pulled pork mac and cheese with green beans. The next meal is going to be a fried rice. So I've got an individual serving cup of pre-cooked rice here. These are sold in the grocery stores and they're all sealed up. I have got some mixed vegetables here. If you can't find mixed vegetables, you could use 1 or 2 cups of a single vegetable, whatever you liked. I think I got the mixed vegetables at Dollar Tree. I have got a Spam single here, which is a 1 slice of Spam. Now you could do this with chicken, with a small can or a pouch of chicken. If you like, I wanted to have cubes of meat, not like shredded meat, so that's why I'm going with the Spam. This is a classic, and I have also found light Spam singles. Right here, this is a little bit of scrambled egg powder. This is about half of an egg's worth of scrambled egg powder, so we can have those little egg bits in the fried rice. And what I've done here is I've just put a tablespoon of the scrambled egg powder into this baby food jar. Now you could use a baby food jar, or you could use a Mylar bag like this, a small little Mylar bag. You could also use a very small mason jar. They make quarter pints that are just a little bit bigger than this. And this is a 1 tablespoon scoop with a little funnel built in, which is really handy for something like this. And then over here, I've got a few packets. So what I've got here is mostly soy sauce packets. Most of us have these lying around from when we've done Chinese food takeout. If you don't have packets like this, you can buy them on Amazon. They're not too expensive, but you probably have some or can get some or know somebody that could save some for you if you don't do a lot of eating out. And the other packet I have here is a sesame oil packet. This is going to be to start the frying of the egg and the vegetables and the meat, and then a little bit to finish it to give it a little bit more authentic flavor. I like to have this when I do Asian dishes like this, and I do that a lot, so it's worth it for me to buy a small pack of these. I've never seen them anywhere but Amazon. If you don't have this, you can just plan to use oil that you have in your house. And if you give the meal away to someone, you can assume that they will have oil in their house, which most people do. That's a pretty common assumption when you put together meal kits like this. And of course, I also need my bottle of water. Just a little bit of water is going to be needed to prepare the scrambled egg. And that's all we're going to need for this meal. But the rest of this can be drunk with the meal. All right, let's get this in the bag. I'm going to start with my rice cup, and next I'm going to add my mixed vegetables, my little jar of scrambled egg powder. I'm going to put in my bottle of water, my Spam singles pouch, and then of course these other little pouches or packets. So the soy sauce is going to be to taste, so I have 5 of them here. I probably won't use all of this, but I'd rather have a little bit extra than not enough. And then I just have the 1 packet of sesame oil. Another thing you could do if you don't have this soy sauce packets is maybe you have a very small jar of soy sauce you could include, or you could use soy sauce powder and put it in some kind of a little jar or bag like this. All right, this bag is all ready to go on the shelf, but I am actually going to fix this meal up so you can see how this fried rice turns out. I have a skillet here. I am going to put this aside for just a minute though and get a couple of things ready. I'm going to start with the scrambled egg mix. I'm going to be adding, this is 1 tablespoon of mix, so I'm going to be adding 1.5 tablespoons of water to this to make our scrambled egg. Looks about good. Just going to get this lid on there tight and just swish this around to mix it up and make the egg. It looks pretty good. I'm going to set this aside. It does not have to set any time before it's cooked, but it's not going to hurt it to set for a few minutes while I get the rest of it ready. I'm just going to use a paper plate here to chop up my Spam. Now you can see that this is fully cooked and ready to eat. Well, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it does say it on there. So I don't have to worry about putting this on this plate and putting other food on it later. This is not raw meat. I'm just going to dice this up into a few little dices. And I'm just going to push it aside on the plate. I am going to get these vegetables ready by draining the liquid out. Now I could have used this liquid maybe in my scrambled egg mix. But in this case, I don't think I really want my scrambled eggs to taste like vegetables. And this does actually have, I think it has potatoes in it. I would have rather had a mixed vegetable without potatoes for this, but I'm going to go with it. But sometimes when there's potatoes in canned potatoes, for instance, I see some other kind of strange and suspicious ingredients in the can. I believe it's to help keep the potatoes firm. So I don't really know what kind of chemicals might be in this liquid. So I am going to drain this off this time. So my veggies are all ready to go because this is going to go pretty quickly once it gets cooking. So let's get our pan ready to go. I'm going to give my egg one last little jiggle. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on my pan. And I'm going to add just a little bit of this sesame oil to the pan. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my egg and get ready to add this to the pan when it feels hot. I can smell that sesame oil heating already. So that is one thing about sesame oil. It definitely gives it a distinctive Asian food flavor. Now this is not a very much egg. Like I mentioned, this is only about half an egg's worth of scrambled egg, which is going to be perfect for our one serving of fried rice. It's one thing I love about having scrambled egg powder on hand. One of many reasons I love having it on hand, because if I need just a small amount of egg, I can make as much or as little as I want, whether it's an egg wash or anything else. I've got what I want. All right, so this is about done. I'm going to take that off the heat so it doesn't burn. I'm just going to add this onto the plate with the Spam. I'm going to put this right back on the heat, and I'm going to add my meat right into the pan. My egg stuck a little bit there, but that is okay. It's not a big deal. It'll scrape right up and just become part of the dish. This is starting to brown, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit more of this oil in there. And I'm going to dump in the vegetables. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I got it pretty high. And my rice. Get this rice broken up. It will break up as it heats. Probably would have been easier if I had broken it up a little bit before I put it in. All right, so now that this is getting fried, I'm going to go ahead and add some of my soy sauce. I'm going to go ahead and add another packet of soy sauce because that one packet does not make it salty enough for my taste. Of course, this is something that you can control how much you put in based on your dietary needs and your taste preferences. I think that is pretty good for me, so I'm going to go ahead and stir this egg back in. Of course, I still have 3 more soy sauce packets, so I could add to taste after this is off the heat if I get eating and decide it's not enough. But this meat is going to be salty, so I want to make sure that I don't overdo it too much. All right, so there is my single serve fried rice. I'm going to go ahead and serve this up. For one last finishing touch, I am going to drizzle any remaining sesame oil over this rice, and that's going to give it some really good flavor. Ready to dig in. It is really important to have all of your ingredients kind of ready to go and to pay attention to the flame level, because those butane stoves actually, at least that one, actually cooks really hot. So pay attention to your flame and have all your stuff ready to go, because that goes super, super fast once it gets going. But it's really good. I like having the Spam in there rather than something like chicken, not only because it's the cubes, but because it does give it that little bit of saltiness that kind of complements with the soy sauce. This really, really does feel like eating Chinese at home in an emergency, cooked up in a flash. That is delicious. My next meal is a creamy potato casserole. So I have got some single serve potato shreds here. These are dehydrated. Now these are Hidden Valley Ranch flavor. I got these at Dollar Tree. So if you can't find these anywhere, or your Dollar Tree doesn't have them, they do have other flavors of these. For example, they have this cheddar and bacon flavor. They have just a cheesy flavor. In a pinch, if you couldn't find any of the flavored ones, you could just use some of these that we all see at Dollar Tree and just put them into a mason jar with a little bit of powdered seasoning, powdered cheese, something like that. But I've got the potatoes. I have got a Spam single here. This is the light. They have light and regular. I have got this single serve little tub of creamy onion dip. This came from Dollar Tree. I believe they have these at Dollar General as well. Let me know down in the comments anywhere else that you've seen these so that other people can find them if they're having trouble. This is a 3.7 ounce container. If you can't find the onion dip, any type of little dip container like this will work. They have a cheddar cheese one that's the same size. It would be a different experience, but it would probably still be really good. I don't know what other small containers of dip there might be like this. But you could also look at sauces near the deli area that they might have for like the chicken strips and stuff that they sell there. And they do have those little Velveeta squeeze packets that you can usually get at Dollar Tree. That might be good. It would be a little bit of a different taste to your casserole, but there's lots of different ways that you could do this if you can't find something like this product. I also have a little single serve bag of club crackers here. These also came from Dollar Tree in a multi-pack. There's lots of different ways that you can find single servings of crackers. They have also these, which are a little bit different. And this is just to have a little bit of a crumb topping on top of our casserole. And then of course I've got my bottle of water. So let's get these into the bag and get started. Okay, I'm gonna start with my potato shreds and next my bottle of water. I'm gonna be adding my little tub of creamy onion dip, my Spam single, and my little bag of crackers. All right, this bag is ready to go. And I'm gonna fix it up right now and show you how this little mini casserole turns out. For this meal, I'm going to start by rehydrating these potatoes. You can see they're just the potato shreds with some seasoning and kind of sauce mix in there. Now I'm going to do 2/3 of a cup of water. It's not going to be as much as is called for. It's not going to fill it up to the line, but it's going to be plenty for the purposes that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and just heat this water up in my little pot. And that is so fast on these little stoves to get this to boiling. So now I'm just going to pour that into the potato cup and just give this a little stir with my spoon here. And I'm just going to get something over top of this so that it can set for 5 or 10 minutes and just bring those potatoes back. And while the potatoes are hydrating, I went ahead and cut up my other slice of Spam just like I did before. All right, so these potatoes have fully rehydrated. That is plenty soft enough for our purposes because we are going to continue working with these. But you can see the potatoes, the ranch seasoning, and a little bit of sauce. I'm going to go ahead and add my Spam right into this and stir this together. And then I'm going to add my little tub of dip and just get this all stirred together. Now at this point, I am going to put this into a little casserole dish and bake it, but this is where it becomes a little less emergency friendly if you don't have a way to bake when the power's out. So at this point, this is really pretty hot. You could just put this in the pot, heat it up, and then sprinkle your topping over and eat it that way. And that would be just fine if you don't have a way to bake when the power's out. This would also be a meal that if you did it that way, you could completely do this in the microwave if you were gifting this meal to someone who's in a living situation that they don't have an oven and maybe they only have access to a microwave. But there are lots of different types of emergency situations and plenty of times we may still have power or a way to bake when the power's out. And people use these meals for a lot of other situations as well, besides just power outages and emergencies. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into my casserole dish. Now this is actually... that's kind of a struggle to figure out the right size of casserole dish for a single size meal. This is actually a little storage container that is oven safe. This is a Rubbermaid, can't remember what they're called, but it's an oven safe container. So oven safe up to 450 and I'm only going to bake this at 350. So there's our potato mixture. Now you could spray this with nonstick spray if you have some handy, but I think it's just fine without it. It will stick to the sides a little bit, but it's nothing major. And we wouldn't always have cooking spray available to us in an emergency. So my next step is going to be to crush up these crackers for the topping. I am going to open it up first because if you try to crush something in a bag without opening it, sometimes it'll pop and things will come out the bottom and you have a big mess. So just crush these up however you prefer. And once they're crushed to your liking, you can go ahead and sprinkle this topping over the casserole. All right, so now this is ready to go in the oven. Now, like I mentioned, I have my oven set to 350. The nice thing about a casserole like this is it's pretty forgiving. You could bake this higher, lower, just adjust the time. So if you do have an emergency type of oven that you have a hard time controlling the temperature on, it'll still be fine. This is already pretty warm. It really is only going to have to go probably about 15 minutes just to really heat through and crisp up the topping. So I'm going to put this in and see you back in a minute. All right, here is the potato bake. You can see that just took just over 15 minutes in this dish, and that crumb topping on the top is nice and brown, and the casserole is sizzling, and it smells delicious. I'm going to let this cool for just a few minutes. It's going to cool off, it's going to firm up a little bit, and then we'll be able to eat. And if I was just eating this as one single person, I will just eat this right out of the dish. For people with small appetites, this is very rich and very hearty, and it probably actually could be divided into 2 small meals, especially if you serve it with a side dish, which I should have stuck in my bag. I should have stuck in a vegetable side dish. So I would choose one of these vegetables to serve alongside and heat this up and have it with my casserole. If you wanted to avoid the extra step, you could always mix a vegetable right into the casserole instead of serving it alongside. All right, I am ready to dig into this one and see how this came out. This is really good. So good. Very rich, but very, very tasty. Very filling, very comforting. My final meal today is going to be a breakfast meal. So maybe I should have done this one first, but you can always have breakfast for dinner. So this is going to be a cheesy hash brown breakfast casserole. And what I've got for my ingredients is another one of these potato cups. So this is the bacon cheddar potato shreds. They do have these in one more different variety. They come in a 2-pack like this. And they also have this triple cheese, which is basically probably the same thing without the bacon. So I've got one of these cups. I've got another Spam single. And then right here, I've got a little bit more scrambled egg powder. So this is 2 eggs worth. So I've got 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup. And what I did is I just put it in this 1/4 pint mason jar and just sealed it up. If you were going to store these for a long period of time, you might want to use an oxygen absorber in here. But honestly, something like this cup of potatoes probably would not last as long as the scrambled egg powder just in a jar all by itself with no oxygen absorber. So I don't think that's really going to be necessary, because you're going to want to make sure that you're rotating these meals out every year or so probably if they haven't been used. All right, let's get these ingredients into a bag so we can get started. All right, I'm going to start with my cheesy bacon potatoes, and I'm going to add my scrambled egg powder, my Spam single, and my bottle of water. Now, do note that I'm using the larger bottle of water this time, because this time we do need water for both the potatoes and the scrambled egg powder. And I don't believe an 8-ounce bottle would be enough. It wouldn't be enough. So we will have a little bit left over from this one, but that is something you can drink with the meal. All right, this bag is all ready to go. Now let's fix it up and see how this amazing breakfast casserole turns out. For this one, I'm using another small glass baking dish, casserole type of dish. I have also done these single serve casseroles in mini loaf pans. You can get them in silicone and in metal, and you can even find these in disposable aluminum. So if you are making these kits to give away to somebody or to put in a blessing box or something, it might be nice to include a disposable foil pan of some sort that is around these sizes. If you do it in something like this, it might be a little bit deeper than if you do it in something like this. It's going to be shallower. It might bake more quickly, but it's going to be the same amount of food no matter how you dish it out. So whatever you have that will work is going to be fine. And once again, this does require baking. So in an emergency without power, you would need a way to bake it. But you also could pour this into like a heavy cast iron skillet and put a lid over it and cook it through that way, kind of like you would with a frittata or something like that. Or you could also scoop portions of it onto a skillet and fry it and flip it. There would be lots of different ways that you could cook this if you didn't have power and didn't have a way to bake without power. You also could make this in a microwave if you had a microwave safe dish that it was put into. Once again, I am going to start with the potatoes. I'm going to get these potatoes ready to go. Once again, I'm going to use 2/3 of a cup of water. I'm just going to fix these potatoes up exactly like we did the other ones. So again, I'm going to set these aside, open up my Spam single and get this chopped up. All right, there's our meat. This is very, very similar to ham. So it's going to be like having a ham and potato casserole. Okay, these potatoes are fully rehydrated. You can see how cheesy they are. That's going to give a lot of flavor to this casserole. We're not going to have to add any extra seasoning or salt or anything besides just our basically 3 ingredients plus water. That's pretty amazing. One difference is with this casserole, I am going to let these potatoes cool off a little bit before I mix it up, because I don't want the heat to start cooking the eggs before I get a chance to mix it all together. I want that cooking to happen afterwards. So I'm going to let this set just for I don't know, at least about 15-20 minutes. It's going to continue to absorb liquid and it's going to cool off. While the potatoes are cooling, I am just going to mix up our scrambled eggs and let's let them set while we're waiting for the potatoes. Once again, it's not necessary to let them set, but it doesn't hurt. I kind of like to do that if I have a chance. So I'm going to dump in my scrambled egg mix. So this is the 1/4 cup, so it's 2 eggs worth. And now I need 6 tablespoons of water for this. So I've got 4 tablespoons and then another 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to mix this up with the same spoon I used for the potatoes. Just make sure there's no clumps left. And there's our scrambled egg all ready to go. Okay, so now my potatoes have cooled off. You can see I stirred kind of a little well in them to just let them cool faster. They don't have to be cold, it's just not piping hot. So the potatoes are cooled off and I've got my Spam all sliced up. I'm going to go ahead and add all these ingredients into my scrambled egg mixture. You guys don't want to know how long I just spent hunting around for my little round glass baking dish that I wanted to use. Not realizing it was right here with my scrambled eggs already in it. For some reason, I got confused. Oh my God. That's where the bowl is. It's got the eggs in it. All right, so I'm going to have to go and add the rest of my potatoes now to the eggs and Spam. All right, I've got all that potato and all of that bacony cheese sauce in here, and I'm just going to get this all well mixed so that it's all evenly distributed. Spread it out. And I've got my oven set at 325 for this because it's an egg dish. That's what I typically bake these at. But once again, I think this would be pretty forgiving. You wouldn't want to put it on too high of an oven because you don't want the outsides to get overdone or burned before the middle sets. I don't think, especially if you're in an emergency situation using an emergency baking method, you're probably not going to have trouble with your oven getting too hot. It would probably be more the opposite. So we're just going to cook this until it's fully set. And then it's going to be ready to eat. I'll see you back in a little bit. All right, so here is our breakfast casserole. This is all done. This took about 35 minutes or so to get set. Seems like no matter what size or shape of container I do, it takes about 35 minutes. So just until the egg is set in the middle. And now I'm going to let this cool a little bit and then it'll be ready to dig in. Just a note for this breakfast meal, just like that last casserole, I suggest throwing in a cup of probably fruit for the breakfast one so that you really have a truly complete meal with a serving of fruit or vegetable. So with that potato casserole, I think throwing in a vegetable cup. And with this breakfast casserole, I would throw in a fruit cup. This one is mandarin oranges, just to make it a little bit more healthy and a little bit more complete. All right, now let's try this breakfast casserole and see how delicious this is going to be. Oh, this is amazing. This is so good. It's amazing how much flavor just that cheesy potato gives this dish, because the rest of it was just the egg and the Spam. The Spam gives it some good salty flavor too. This is so good and really, really hearty also. This would be a good filling breakfast. I hope these 5 new meal ideas can help you or help you help someone else. That's what it's all about. If you can't use small meals like this, think about someone who can. And think about all the other ways these meals can be used, from camping and hiking to travel to bug out bags, get home bags, and evacuation kits. Let me know down in the comments some of your favorite single-serve meals and how you use them so we can all learn from each other. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a plate emoji down in the comments and check out this video next for some more great ideas I think you'll enjoy. I'm Jera with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.